Hello and welcome to the Jigyasu journey.
I'm Ishna.
And I'm Mansi. And today, we're diving deep into the importance of sharing our perspective.
Why do our stories matter? And how can they change the world? Well, stay with us as we uncover the impact of telling our own stories.
Think about the last story that truly moved you and had a lasting impact. What was it that made you connect so deeply? Chances are, it was the authenticity, rawness, and the feeling that someone is sharing a piece of their soul with you.
That is the magic of personal storytelling. It's not just about recounting events, but it's about conveying the essence of your experiences and emotions. It's about telling it from your perspective, a viewpoint and interpretation that is unique to you. And unless you share your perspective, there's no way for anyone else to get exposure to it.
We recently read Shitala, a novel written by Mitra Desai, which inspired us to speak about this. This novel follows a young girl named Tara who questions and discovers the true history behind vaccination and its roots in India. She starts off as someone who is generally uninterested in the religious activities of her grandfather, but her research into vaccination is spurred by a challenge given to her by him.
When her grandfather mentions India's guiding hand in the development of vaccination worldwide, Tara is shocked and in disbelief. After all, the way she has heard the narrative growing up, Edward Jenner developed vaccination in Europe. So her initial mindset in the book highlights her determination to prove her grandfather wrong.
This makes Tara similar to many people like us in the United States, where they're so far removed from their ancestral culture that sometimes they become skeptical or detached from their traditions. What makes Tara different, though, is that she's willing to dig deeper and do the research that either gives her a reason to her doubt or it helps her dissolve her doubt completely. The reader can do well to learn from the way Tara fuels her own curiosity.
However, Tara quickly transitions to feeling proud of her culture as she uncovers evidence that, in reality, India developed the vaccination a long time ago. This leads to a sort of awakening for Tara and a way for her to reconnect with the past. The novel both begins and ends with her grandfather praying. However, while Tara is initially uninterested, she joins her grandfather in his daily prayers at the end of the novel. This is an especially beautiful moment that highlights the change that has come on her from establishing close ties with her culture. Personally, while reading the book, I also felt like Tara myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, as she was researching things and learning things on her own, I was just as shocked and surprised as she was.
And I think the reason we both felt that way was because Shitala was written in a third-person point of view. So when you're reading the book, you're reading about Tara in the third-person point of view, so you kind of experience everything she's experiencing with her. Whereas if it was like a first-person point of view, then it would be as if like I'm telling you a story that I experienced, but it's my experience. It's not our experience. But through the third-person point of view, it becomes our experience. And I think that's why Shitala became so impactful towards us.
The book also mentioned goddess Shitala, who served as a symbol of disease prevention and cure. And this was really personal for me, especially because my family has been celebrating Shitalashtami for years. And until now, it was just a day where I'd wake up, I'd eat the cold food my mom gives me, and then I'd go to school and I wouldn't really think about it. But now I actually know the meaning behind it. And reading this book has given me a whole new perspective towards it.
Did you know that Shitala Devi was actually my family's ancestral deity?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just didn't know a lot about her because ever since my family moved away from India, our connection to her dwindled over time, so I never actually learned a lot about her.
Yeah.
But after I finished reading the book, I went straight to my mom and I talked to her about what I had learned, and I found out more from my mom about the festival that happens in spring, and this time I had a more complete picture of why this festival happens, which even my mom did not know.
Yeah, I actually had the same exact reaction. I went straight to my mom and told her everything that I read in the book, and even she didn't know about it. So it's crazy to think that if Mitra Desai hadn't written this book, we wouldn't have known about it either.
And I think one thing we learned from Mitra Desai is that it's so important to put your perspective out there and truly search for the answers to your questions, because over time, the truth can get convoluted. And in this case, we do see that with vaccination. And sometimes when you take things at face value, or rather, even sometimes when you sometimes when you don't even question the things that you know, you can be blind to the truth that's staring at you right in the face simply because you don't wish to search for it.
Yeah, like before I'd eat the cold food on Shitala just because my mom told me it was a tradition. But now I actually know that it cools down your body and prevents heat illnesses and increases your immunity.
Wow.
So there's so many scientific reasons behind it I never knew. And now that I do, I can see myself carrying on this tradition in the future.
Exactly, because now you have a meaning attached to it.
Yeah.
I think that's so important for us in the United States, where there's so much diversity of culture, of viewpoints, of people, that it's so important to understand why we do the things that we do, because if we don't understand why we of all people are following our traditions, then we have no motivation to follow our traditions. And being in the United States, people like us, we are the representatives of our culture. So if we don't know what we're doing, then how can we represent it?
Exactly, especially here, our perspective does not currently exist out there. That's why we have to be strong enough in it ourselves in order to teach it to other people. Mm-hmm. We all have to have a Tara within us and do the research into this and become so strong in our culture and proud of it that we can confidently state that these are my traditions, these are my practices, and you judging me will not make me embarrassed about it. Yes. Mita Desai and other authors like her already realized that there's this fundamental gap in knowledge in mainstream society, and they've been working really hard by putting this accurate knowledge out there, and I think we should all take them as models and start doing the same ourselves.
And so that's why we're here now, to share the importance of telling the story from your perspective.
Although it's really not that easy. You have to be really vulnerable to do it. And it might seem useless because, after all, my voice is just 1 in a million or 1 in 8 billion. So why does it matter if I'm sharing my perspective?
Well, it's important to share your perspective because you add authenticity to the subject, but also you add accuracy to that information. If you don't question it, how do you know that your information is correct? I could have an idea that has only 50% of the truth, and I could hold on to that as the truth, and I could hold on to it firmly, but I won't know that it's only half the truth. I will never know the full truth if I don't put it out there and maybe find someone else who also has half of the truth.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And also, being in the environment we are now in America, it makes it even more important to challenge the dominant narrative and represent the unique viewpoint of people like us, like other minority groups. Mm-hmm. Because often our viewpoints and perspectives are silenced by what is thought by the majority. And it makes it even more important to open the world up to new perspectives.
I agree with that. I think by doing so, we allow ourselves to grow as people by putting our viewpoints out there and learning from them. But also, by doing so, we also empower other people to put their viewpoints out there. And I think it can be terrifying to be the first person to speak. And sometimes it can feel useless, like you said. But if it's not you, then who else?
Yeah. And if everyone is simultaneously waiting for someone else to be the first one to start, to speak up, to voice their perspective, it's never going to get done. That's why someone has to be the first one to do it. And that someone should be you.
Exactly. So, as you go about the rest of your day, remember the power of your story and your voice. Whether you share it with a friend, write it down, or broadcast it online, know that your perspective matters. You have the power to contribute to a richer, more empathetic, and more just world by simply telling your story. Shitala not only taught me something to be really proud of, it taught me about a great problem we face as a society. But it gave us a solution to it. All you have to do is put your perspective out there.
All right, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us in our Jigyasu journey today. If you want to learn more about the things we were talking about, like Shitala Devi and India's hand in developing the vaccine, please go and read Shitala. It's an amazing book, and we highly recommend it.
This is Mansi.
And this is Ishna.
Signing off.